Okay, let's see. I called John Curtis today of Curtis Electro Devices. Today is July 30th, and I'm just trying to record some of the notes from this talk that I had with him on the phone. John was born in Bradfield, PA. First license is W3NFJ in 1947. 3 kids in high school got licensed together after the war in 1947. His call sign now is K6KU. A tidbit of information from John was that all of his products numbers were based on his age. He was born in 1930, and so basically the 8043, for instance, the 43 part of the designation means that he was 43 at the time when he developed that product. John's career history was he was a product engineer at Sperry Gyroscope out of college, but he found out that marketing and things like that were a little bit more fun, so he went on to Signetics after that. He started out as in marketing, and it actually started out at the Tokyo office for Signetics, and started up the Tokyo office. And then he came back here to the U.S. and was in marketing, CMOS marketing manager when he left there, after he started the Kier company. Kier company started about 1968, and he left there 3 or 4 years later, left Signetics about 1972. About 1973, the 8043 chip came out. Just a tidbit of note, the Bumblebee was a mascot. It was really supposed to be a bug. It's just a bug of some sort, and that was his mascot for his company, and he really never did much with that, but that was the idea, that it was a bug. The single chip versions of the Kier, the 8043 was the first dedicated. It was a chip design. It was not a gate array, it was a individual chip design. In parallel with that, they did a gate array design. It was actually the 44, the 8043 had DIT memory, 8044 had DIT and DA memory. John thought that the B-style Iambic came along as a mistake by a Hal Kier. He wasn't really sure of the historical aspect of that, but he thought that one of the Hal Kiers came out and was what he calls mode B now. He thought it was originally a mistake. Reason he got into the Kier business is he was originally studying for his extra class license, and he thought that Kier would be a cute project, something they could learn from. So him and some ham friends said, oops, sorry about that. So he started working on the first project, and it ended up being the EK38. And his ham friends thought it was so good that they said he should sell it. And he always wanted to do something to sell, so he put an ad in QST with nothing at all except for his prototype. And the first ad was for a company called Curtis Electronic Devices, but there wasn't enough room in the ad for the electronic part in QST, so he chopped the name of the company to Curtis Electro Devices. 38, EK38 was the first Kier. The 39 had weight control, and 39M had memory. And basically he programmed chips for with call signs and things like that for people in the 39M. Let's see. The 8043 worked first shot, and then, like I said before, in parallel, the 8044 gate was an actual gate array design, and it was the first gate array for a company called IMI. They did it with ruby length technology. There's a consultant employed by IMI that was a friend of John's, and they were looking for something to use for a trial for their first Gatorade. So that's how John got the 8044 done, was with IMI with the first Gatorade design. Some of John's competitors he thought were probably Hal and later Heathkit, and of course Palomar. Palomar, a little bit of a story behind that. I guess he was down at a conference, ham radio conference in Florida, and was doing a presentation on his keyer, and a guy named Jack came up and said, "Hey, you got a pretty good keyer there." And we found out it was Jack from Palomar, and then Jack's last name is yet to be determined. John also made keyboards, Instructo keyers, and several of the chips, but the Instructo keyer chip and the various chips never really took on. Nobody really bought them much. They were more interested in just a single Iambic chip. He made a KB 49000 chip that was, I'm not sure if that's a chip or a keyboard, but that was real popular. And I think he came up with a buffer meter on that, which was probably a new thing. There was a whole group of CW guys that kind of had a following. C. Curtis had a following. Bill Eitel, Don Weitzel, and Sam Pells. All of them were really interested in his products. Don Weitzel was one of the first guys to buy the new keyer stuff from John Curtis, and Sam Pells always got Don Weitzel's leftovers. They always wanted Curtis's stuff, though. And then another little side note, a guy named Hart from QST wrote an article kind of slamming keyboards a little bit, saying something that to the effect that keyboards are, if you can't send CW with your hand and with a fist, then it's not worth sending, or something like that. And I guess a few years later, he wrote John apologetically ordering a keyboard because he just could no longer send with his fist. One of the things that John also manufactured is prom programmers, which happen to be an offshoot from the EK39M, the memory version of the 39. The EK39M first used what they called SCROM, which is scratchable read-only memory, with a microscope and a pin to scratch in the different programs that were required. Later on they used a diode matrix, and later on ROM, I guess, PROM or whatever. Curtis noted that they also did an S100 board, software keyer, teletype ASCII, Baudot, and keyboard. He said that should be advertised somewhere. He bought an Altair computer because he thought that'd be interesting to play with, and wrote the program for the software keyer. And he sold the computers with the board in it. It was a SOL or something like the SOL. He couldn't remember the name of it. Let's see. One other little side note: the little bugger keyer was real popular, but people in England and Europe weren't real fond of the name, because bugger was a name that meant sodomy in Europe, and they weren't too pleased with that name at all. John mentioned that he thought W9TO keyer, or the Hallicrafter keyer, was the first. And also, instead of Iambic, a lot of people called it Lambic because they thought the I was an L. One last note. John Curtis visited MFJ one time, and noticed that everything was put together with white wire, and he asked Martin why, and said that we get it cheaper by specifying one color wire. John was real fond of Martin Jew and thought he was a real great guy, but he certainly must be doing well, is what John's comments were. Let's see, I think there's a few notes on the single chip versions that I missed, but not sure what they might be. Basically, bottom line is the original 8044 was mode A, or 8043 was mode A, 8044 was mode A. Then he went to the 8044B, which is mode B, the 8044M, which was the meter with mode B, and then the 8044 ABM, which was A, B, and the meter. I guess that's about it. I think I said that he worked at Signetics and everything. And that's about it. See ya.